The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton glittered like a galaxy of stars, chandeliers casting their golden light over a sea of silk and jewels. Amidst the opulence and extravagance of New York's elite, a figure in understated elegance stood out. Scarlett Johansson, draped in a simple yet stunning grey dress that whispered of quiet confidence and grace. Her arrival, unaccompanied by the usual entourage, sent ripples through the crowd, drawing curious glances and raised eyebrows from the city's most influential socialites. As Scarlett moved through the room with effortless poise, two pairs of eyes followed her every move. Eleanor Cartwright and Vivian St. James, draped in shimmering gowns and dripping with diamonds, watched from their perch near the champagne fountain. Their perfectly manicured hands held crystal flutes, but their attention was focused solely on the actress who dared to defy the unspoken dress code of excess. "Can you believe the audacity?" Eleanor whispered, her voice a mix of amusement and disdain. "She looks like she's come straight from a board meeting, not a charity gala." Vivian nodded, her lips curling into a smirk. "Darling, some people simply don't understand the importance of making a statement. It's almost pitiful." As the evening began to unfold, a palpable tension filled the air. The wealthiest guests, taking cues from Eleanor and Vivian, began to give Scarlett a wide berth. Whispers and sidelong glances followed her as she made her way to her assigned table, unaware of the social storm brewing around her. Little did anyone know, the night was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would challenge the very foundations of their glittering world. Eleanor Cartwright sashayed across the ballroom, her emerald gown catching the light with every calculated step. She approached Scarlett's table, champagne flute in hand, a saccharine smile plastered on her face. "Scarlett, darling," she cooed, her voice dripping with false warmth. "I must say your choice of attire is quite brave. It takes a certain kind of woman to prioritize comfort over style at an event like this." Scarlett looked up, meeting Eleanor's gaze with a calm smile. "Thank you, Eleanor. I've always believed that true elegance comes from within, not from what we drape ourselves in." Eleanor's smile faltered for a moment before she recovered. "How quaint. I suppose that's one perspective. Though, between us girls, a little effort goes a long way in this crowd." As Eleanor sauntered away, Vivian approached, her diamond necklace catching the light. "You know, some might say your lack of embellishment is a statement in itself. Care to share what you're trying to prove?" Scarlett's response was measured, her voice steady. "I'm not trying to prove anything, Vivian. I'm here to support the cause, nothing more." Vivian's laughter tinkled like ice in a glass. "Oh, sweetie, there's always more to it than that. You'll learn." As the two socialites retreated, Scarlett couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in the room. The air had grown thick with judgment, and she found herself isolated in a sea of glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. As the evening progressed, the subtle jabs transformed into more overt acts of exclusion. Scarlett found her seat mysteriously reassigned to a less prestigious section of the room, far from the stage and hidden behind a large floral arrangement. Eleanor's voice carried across the room, deliberately loud enough for Scarlett to hear. "It's such a shame when people don't understand the importance of these events. This isn't just about writing a check. It's about showing respect for the cause through our presence and presentation." Vivian nodded in agreement, her eyes darting towards Scarlett. "Absolutely. Some people simply don't grasp the nuances of high society. It's our duty to educate them, don't you think?" Scarlett maintained her composure, sipping her water and engaging in polite conversation with those around her. Yet she couldn't help but feel the weight of judgment pressing down on her. A waiter approached, holding a silver tray with a folded note. "For you, Miss Johansson," he said, his voice neutral but his eyes sympathetic. Scarlett unfolded the paper, her expression unchanging as she read the thinly veiled insult, suggesting she seek a better stylist for next year's event. Eleanor and Vivian watched from across the room, their faces alight with malicious glee. "Look at her. Eleanor whispered. She's completely out of her depth. This is our world, and she needs to learn her place in it. Vivian nodded, a smirk playing on her lips. It's almost too easy. By the end of the night, she'll be begging for our approval. As they plotted, Robert Downey Jr., the gala's host, made his way through the crowd. He stopped to chat with various guests, his charisma and charm on full display. Eleanor's eyes narrowed as she watched him. Even Robert seems to be avoiding her. It's clear where the real power lies in this room. Vivian raised her glass in a mock toast. To us, darling, the true queens of this little empire. Their confidence was palpable, the certainty of their social superiority etched into every gesture and glance. Little did they know, the tides were about to turn in a way they could never have anticipated. As the main course was served, a buzz of excitement rippled through the crowd. Robert Downey Jr. had taken to the stage, his presence commanding immediate attention. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the charismatic host. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robert began, his voice carrying effortlessly across the ballroom, "we're here tonight for a cause greater than ourselves. But before we dive into that, I'd like to acknowledge someone special." Eleanor and Vivian exchanged smug glances, each expecting to hear their name called. The anticipation in the room was palpable, the air thick with expectation. Robert's eyes scanned the crowd, a mischievous glint in his gaze. Someone who embodies the true spirit of philanthropy. Someone who doesn't seek the spotlight, but whose actions speak louder than any diamond or designer label ever could. A murmur of confusion spread through the gathering. Eleanor's smile began to falter, while Vivian's grip on her champagne flute tightened. The room held its collective breath, waiting for the revelation that was about to shatter their carefully constructed social hierarchy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage our guest of honor and the evening's highest donor, Scarlett Johansson. The room erupted into a cacophony of gasps and applause. Scarlett rose from her seat, her simple grey dress suddenly seeming more regal than any couture gown in the room. She made her way to the stage with grace and poise, her smile genuine and warm. Eleanor and Vivian sat frozen in their seats, their faces a tableau of shock and disbelief. The champagne in Vivian's glass sloshed dangerously close to the rim as her hand trembled. Robert continued, his voice filled with admiration. "Scarlett has been a pillar of support for our cause, donating not just her money but her time and energy. She embodies the spirit of true generosity, one that doesn't seek recognition or praise." As Scarlett took her place beside Robert, the room's dynamics shifted palpably. Those who had snubbed her earlier now looked on with a mix of admiration and embarrassment. Eleanor leaned towards Vivian, her voice a harsh whisper. "How could we not have known? This changes everything." Scarlett took the microphone, her voice steady and clear. "Thank you, Robert. I'm honored to be here tonight, supporting a cause so close to my heart." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room, lingering for a moment on Eleanor and Vivian. "You know, it's fascinating how quickly we judge based on appearances, how we assign worth based on the sparkle of a jewel or the label on a dress." The room fell into a hushed silence, hanging on her every word. Even the waitstaff paused in their duties, captivated by the unexpected turn of events. "But true worth," Scarlett continued, "isn't measured in carats or designer names. It's measured in the impact we make when no one's watching, in the kindness we show when there's nothing to gain." Scarlett's words resonated through the ballroom, each syllable a gentle rebuke to the night's earlier events. "I chose this dress tonight, not out of ignorance or disrespect, but as a reminder that our focus should be on why we're here, not on outdoing each other with our wardrobes." Eleanor and Vivian sank lower in their seats, the weight of their earlier actions pressing down on them. Around the room, guests shifted uncomfortably, many avoiding eye contact as the truth of Scarlett's words hit home. "This gala isn't about us," Scarlett continued, her voice gaining strength. "It's about the lives we can change, the hope we can bring. It's about making a difference, not a statement." The silence in the room was deafening. Even the clink of cutlery had ceased as everyone, from the wealthiest donor to the newest waiter, hung on Scarlett's every word. As Scarlett concluded her speech, the room erupted into applause. It wasn't the polite, restrained applause of high society, but a genuine, heartfelt ovation. People rose to their feet, moved by her words and humbled by her example. Robert stepped forward, placing a hand on Scarlett's shoulder. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Scarlett is not just our highest donor, but also our moral compass. Thank you, Scarlett, for reminding us what truly matters. As they left the stage, the energy in the room had shifted dramatically. Gone was the air of superficial competition, replaced by a sense of collective purpose and reflection. Eleanor and Vivian remained in their seats, the reality of their misjudgment settling over them like a heavy cloak. They exchanged a look, wordlessly acknowledging the depth of their mistake. As the gala continued, Eleanor found herself unable to enjoy the lavish dessert spread before her. Her earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by a gnawing sense of shame. "Vivian," she whispered, her voice lacking its usual haughty tone, "I think we may have made a terrible mistake." Vivian nodded, her perfectly applied makeup unable to hide the distress in her eyes. "I can't believe we were so blind, so caught up in our own importance that we couldn't see what was right in front of us." Across the room, they watched as guests flocked to Scarlett, eager to speak with her. The actress greeted each person with the same warmth and genuine interest, regardless of their status or attire. "Look at her," Eleanor mused, a note of admiration creeping into her voice. "She's not even gloating. If it were me." As the night wore on, Eleanor and Vivian found themselves increasingly isolated. The very people who had once sought their approval now gave them a wide berth, drawn instead to Scarlett's authentic charm. "You know," Vivian said, swirling the champagne in her glass, "I can't remember the last time I came to one of these events and actually thought about the cause we're supporting." Eleanor nodded, her gaze distant. "We've been so focused on outdoing each other, on being seen, that we forgot why we're here in the first place." A waiter approached their table, offering to refill their glasses. For the first time that evening, both women looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just a server, but a person. "Thank you," Eleanor said softly, offering a genuine smile. The waiter, surprised by the sudden kindness, smiled back before moving on. As the gala began to wind down, Eleanor and Vivian found themselves standing near the coat check, lost in thought. The glittering gowns and sparkling jewels that had seemed so important hours ago now felt hollow and meaningless. "We owe her an apology," Vivian said suddenly, her voice firm with resolve. Eleanor nodded, straightening her shoulders. They approached Scarlett, who was engaged in conversation with Robert. As they drew near, both women fell silent, suddenly unsure of what to say. Scarlett turned to them, her expression open and free of judgment. "Eleanor, Vivian," she greeted them warmly. "I hope you enjoyed the evening." Eleanor stepped forward, her usual bravado replaced by humility. "Scarlett, we owe you an apology. Our behavior tonight was inexcusable." Vivian nodded in agreement. "We were so caught up in our own world that we forgot what really matters. You've taught us a valuable lesson." Scarlett's smile was genuine as she regarded the two women. "Thank you for saying that. It takes courage to admit when we've made a mistake." Robert watched the exchange with approval. "Ladies, this right here, this is what tonight is all about. Not the dresses or the donations, but the connections we make and the growth we experience." The four of them stood together, a tableau of reconciliation and newfound understanding. Around them, the gala continued. But something fundamental had shifted. As the last of the guests departed, Scarlett and Robert stood on the steps of the Ritz-Carlton, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. The night air was cool, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the ballroom. "You know," Robert mused, "I think you've changed more than just Eleanor and Vivian tonight. You've reminded all of us what true philanthropy looks like." Scarlett smiled. her eyes reflecting the city lights. It's not about grand gestures or public recognition. It's about the small acts of kindness, the moments when we choose compassion over judgment. They fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Scarlett spoke again, her voice soft but filled with conviction. In the end, it's not about how we look or what we wear. It's about how we make others feel, the impact we have on the world around us. That's the true measure of our worth. With those words hanging in the air, Scarlett descended the steps and slipped into her waiting car. As it pulled away from the curb, Robert raised his hand in a silent salute, acknowledging the profound truth in her words. The gala was over, but its impact would ripple out far beyond this single night. In boardrooms and living rooms across the city, people would reflect on Scarlett's message, re-evaluating their priorities and the true meaning of making a difference. And as the lights of the Ritz-Carlton dimmed, the city seemed to glow a little brighter, illuminated not by the glitter of jewels or the flash of cameras, but by the enduring power of genuine kindness and compassion.